I started out having just read a book, just one book, and it was Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. And if you've read that book, you'll know it's a concept book rather than a how-to book. It's a great book about the concept of property and assets and everything else. But it's a concept book, not a how-to book. So I'd read the book, and then I went and took massive action. And I ran immediately into massive problems. My first 10 houses were a disaster. And I'd have lost my shirt if it wasn't for the fact that it was a rising market. I got away with it because it was a rising market. I'd taken my limited knowledge, my concepts, I'd taken somebody else's money, and I'd started taking massive action. And I had people that were trashing my properties. I had people that weren't paying the rent. I had, I had someone set the property on fire and burn it down. Literally, they had a drugs party and they burnt the house to the ground. I bought a deal off a property sourcer. I didn't know what one was back then. And they totally ripped me off. They ripped the vendor off. I ended up with a vendor who I thought was moving out in 6 months. They thought they were living there forever on this reduced rent. They'd been totally ripped off. It was a mess. It was a disastrous mess. But here was the thing. I learned from my mistakes. I went and got myself around the best possible investors I could find in the world, the best possible investors I could find in the UK. I said, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And I learned from them. And by modeling what they were doing and getting their techniques into place and refining those, I was able to build a portfolio that meant within just another 7 purchases, my first 10 a disaster, making me nothing really, within another 7 purchases, I'm at a point where me and my business partner at the time could choose to quit our jobs if that's what we wanted to do. And I learned from investors. I learned from people who were making 100K plus a year. That was my criteria. I'm going to interview you. I'm going to come and speak to you if you're making £100,000 plus a year, not just a one-off year, but consistently. And from that, I was able to identify these 10 areas that you need to master to successfully invest in property. There are 10 areas that you need to master to an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10. And if you master each of those areas to an 8, 9, or 10, and you take the action, I can almost guarantee you can get financially free through property. And with just 5 or 6 properties, you can get financially free in a very, very short window in this next 5 years, how you can do that. And I can help you to do that.